Hello and welcome to Podtoid. I'm CJ.
I'm Chris.
I'm Dan.
Nope, didn't work. I'm Occams.
What language were you trying to do this week?
German.
Okay. Welcome to the show. This is episode 461. Thank you for joining us today. We have a good show planned for you, hopefully, knock on wood. We're going to be talking about some Genshin Impact, and then a little bit later in the show, we're going to be answering your listener questions. Before we get into any of that, Dan, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing just fantastic.
That almost sounded serious. How's your brother doing?
He'll be fine.
Okay.
For those unaware, my brother tested positive for COVID-19. It's been great. It's been a great week. I had my car door keyed by some brat or something. I had to stand in line at some fucking thing to claim on it or whatever. Had to file a police report, which then involved standing in another line. It was great. Last week sucked.
Didn't they go all the way around it as well?
My dad's truck, they did. For whatever reason. Apparently they went down the entire back alley, just scratching everyone's car. Don't know why. I don't know what compels a group of kids to just go, let's go scratch cars.
I always believed there was no trouble in Canada whatsoever.
Canadian youth are rebelling against vehicles, I guess.
I imagine they would scratch up a car, but then leave a note saying sorry, because they're Canadian. I had that happen to me when I was in college, though. Me and a friend, we parked our car on a bridge where you could park. And when we got back to our car, people had scratched swastikas into all the car doors. But they did them backwards. So they weren't even correct swastikas. Don't know why, but whatever. Okay, sure. I'll just buff that out of this 1988 Chevy Beretta that I don't really care about. So, but it sucks because, depending on how much it costs to get it fixed, it could be a lot of paint, especially on your dad's truck that it goes all the way around.
Yeah, he's getting it buffed and repainted. I'm just going to leave mine for now because I don't care enough, honestly. I'm driving an 04 Jeep that's already fairly rusted at this point. I don't care about a scratch on my door.
Yeah, see, all of my cars before my current one have been older used cars, so I really wouldn't care about that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
My last car had a big ass dent in it. I'm just I'll leave it. But if someone did that to my new car, then I would be upset. This is only a year old, people. Don't fucking scratch up my car. So that's why I'm keeping all the pride flags off the back of it, just because I know that will invite people to do so and where I live. So yeah.
Announcing that kind of thing on a podcast would be almost like painting a target on yourself if anyone listened to the show.
That is true. Thank God no one does. Woo! I shouldn't say no one does. I found out last week we got our first listener from Uzbekistan. So thank you, listener from Uzbekistan. I hope whatever episode you listened to, you enjoyed.
Do you know what they were listening on? Was it
No, unfortunately, I can't see that type of data. It doesn't show me where they're listening and what they're listening on. Because it would have been really great if that was a guy who listened on the Zune.
That was it. It was a Zune. I was trying to remember what that other listener is. I wonder if they're still listening. If you're still listening to this on a Zune, we appreciate your loyalty.
Absolutely. Not just to our show, but to the Zune brand. Yeah. Keeping that going.
I'm still waiting for someone who's found a way to run the show on an N-Gauge. I had something pumpkin spice flavored that was great.
Was it mac and cheese?
No, it was not mac and cheese. But pertaining to our conversation last week, I was determined to find something that was pumpkin spiced, that was delicious, and I found something. It was a Twix.
Huh.
Pumpkin spice Twix.
Twix. Yeah, it was great. I heartily recommend you track it down.
I don't think I've seen those at our stores. I'll have to check it when I'm there today. I do know that there is a massive display of pumpkin spice Twinkies. Yeah.
Aren't Twinkies just like we don't really have them here, but aren't they just basically stale bread rolls with bad chocolate sauce in them?
No.
They're purely chemicals.
They're sponge cake with cream in them. That's technically what they are, but they are, as Dan said, chemicals.
Okay.
Just a lot of chemicals.
What's a ding dong?
That is
That's the thing Bailey says. No one will get that.
that's the chocolates. They're like they look like hockey pucks, so they have a somewhat hard outer chocolate, and then the chocolate cake, and then cream in the middle.
Oh, damn. We don't get those either.
That's because they don't consider them food in your country, which is, that'll change once you guys are fully out of the EU. Then you'll start getting all of our crap. But real quick story about Hostess foods, including Twinkies and Ding Dongs. One day, my brother and I were bored, and so we took all of our Hostess treats out of the freezer and had a Hostess fight. And my brother threw a cupcake directly at my face, and my nose started bleeding. So I got a bad nosebleed from a frozen Hostess cake.
Well, it doesn't matter what it's made from. That's if it's frozen, it's essentially a rock. Like, you might as well have just said he threw a brick at you.
I think a brick would have done a little bit more damage than that, but
Hulk Hogan was once hit with a jet ski allegedly, and it just gave him a black eye.
I assume he then suplexed the jet ski as retaliation.
I don't know.
I think his suplex is a little too complicated for him.
He wasn't in Japan. I think he a good joke there for you wrestling fans. Anyway, I think I saw a Baywatch episode where Hogan was jet skiing, so I always get it confused as to whether he was skiing a Baywatch episode. But no, I'm pretty sure he turned up to WrestleMania 9 with like a black eye, and there's all these different rumors as to how he got it. But according to him, he was hit with like a jet ski at like 90 miles an hour, which somehow didn't tear his head off, and instead just gave him a black eye.
That sounds like a BS story you would hear on wrestling.
What? You mean it sounds like a wrestler told a story and it might not have been the truth?
Yeah.
An anecdote. Hogan's book should be filed in like the fucking... His autobiography should be filed in like the fiction section of most stores.
To play devil's advocate, though, that's from an era of wrestling where, like, if you got beat up in a bar fight and you were employed by the WWE, you were then fired. So the word is out that you got beat up in a fucking bar fight. Kayfabe mattered. So if you had a black eye, the best it's used to come up with is something crazy, like a jet ski hitting you in the face.
Before we get into the show this week, I wanted to start us off with a story of criminals committing crimes. For this one, we're going to go to the wonderful country of Ireland, where police were called in to investigate an aggravated robbery of a home. The thieves broke into the house and stole a bunch of personal effects and then took the keys to the homeowner's car and drove off from the crime scene. Thankfully, they left a lot of evidence behind because police investigating the robbery were able to track down the criminals. They arrested two men, ages 28 and 45. And they also arrested the getaway driver, a 71-year-old woman who owns a bed and breakfast. Police say the woman drove the men to and from the scene of the crime over many, many miles or kilometers. I guess that's what they go by over there. And they actually believe she might have been the getaway driver in a series of robberies and burglaries as well that they are currently investigating. Occams, who would play the grandmother in the TV version of this movie, of this story?
Carol Burnett.
I was gonna go Lily Tomlin. I think she would be the good addition to that.
Definitely.
Or it'll star Diane Keaton going to theaters and be terrible.
Sounds like a really bad remake of Stop My Mom Will Shoot.
This is Podtoid.
All right, let's go ahead and move on, and we're going to start with Occams. Occams, you have a movie recommendation for us this week?
Yeah, it's called Super Inframan. That's infra, like infrared. It's a Shaw Brothers 1975 kung fu film, but it's sort of like Ultraman, or I guess if you don't know Ultraman, like sort of like the Power Rangers, kind of. It was the Shaw Brothers' kind of attempt to get into the giant transforming person fights monster genre. And it's a pretty goddamn great film. I rented it a lot from our mom and pop video store as a kid, and ran across a pretty nice copy of it on Blu-ray. And I thought that the world should know. I'm pretty sure it's available in its entirety on YouTube, in fairly good quality. But yeah, if you get a chance, Super Inframan. It's a lot of fun. The monsters are great.
I will say this movie has a 100% Rotten Tomato rating on it, so It's clearly good.
It's Shaw Brothers, so it's they didn't make a lot of shit back in the day, so it's worth your time.
It's actually kind of one of my favorites of the films from that kind of genre. I think it was like an early film for Danny Lee, who'd go on to do so many huge Hong Kong movies like The Killer for John Woo. But yeah, like you say, Occams, it's kind of that Power Rangers thing of Inframan's a guy in like a full body suit and he fights a load of dudes, and then eventually they grow into giant monsters, and then he grows giant, and then it's like King of the Monsters, kaiju fighting. But as always in these films, everyone's just doing pro wrestling moves, because that's like all they ever do when they fight in these films is just like suplexes and drop kicks and the like. But the best thing about Inframan, like I gotta shout out here, is like the villain is this like really kind of over the top, sexy, 10 zillion year old goddess.
The Dragon Princess?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Princess Dragon Mom is the direct translation of her name. And she just stomps around in these giant rubber feet with this big crown on her head and like long blonde hair, dropping people into pits of lava when they like very Rita Repulsa in kind of her attitude. But she's one of the best movie villains of all time. She kind of sells the film, just her, I think.
And she definitely, I feel like she's probably inspired a Pornhub category.
Giant monster feet and a crown. That literally the first image that popped in my head was that she was Bowsette. Remember when Bowsette was a thing?
Yeah, she's kind of got a costume that's all kind of scaly and stuff. So yeah, I guess so. And she has a lieutenant who has eyeballs in her hands.
Yeah,
Guillermo del Toro shit right there.
No, it's really good. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a harmless movie. It was kind of thing that used to get thrown on at matinees, like during the day, like poorly translated, bought cheaply, and then just put up on American screens. The kind of film that we basically didn't get here ever until like it came out on Blu-ray like 2 years ago. Yeah. But I saw it a while back. I absolutely love it, and I think of all of those like Power Rangers style fighting monsters movies, I genuinely think it's one of the best.
Well, that's a good recommendation, and also something I did not even know was a thing. But of course Chris did. I think Chris knows every movie.
One's worth knowing.
One's worth knowing, and that definitely sounds like one worth knowing, especially that dragon lady. I kind of want to see what she looks like now. Let's go ahead and move on to me. For the past week or so, I have been playing Genshin Impact. It launched last month worldwide on mobile, PS4, and I believe PC as well. It's from the makers of Honkai Third Impact, which is a great little action mobile game. If you don't mind free-to-play gacha mechanics, it controls very well. Genshin Impact, this is a game people have been calling a Breath of the Wild clone since it was first shown off. And, there are a lot of similarities in the world and how you traverse it. Basically, the game is about a character looking for their brother or sister, depending on which one you choose at the beginning, after they were separated by this godlike woman. The character you choose ends up in this strange world and sets out to find their sibling while also completing what other story missions the land has. So unlike Breath of the Wild, this is a really story and level-driven game. And by level, I mean character level and more than that. You really can't just do what you want to do and still progress. You have to go and talk to people. You have to unlock quests. You have to level up your characters, and you have to level up your your adventure ranking, which is how you will unlock more of the story. And so you'll be playing through the story, and you'll be going into the dungeons that they have, and then you'll hit a point where you've done all of that, and the story can't progress until you up your adventure ranking a bit. And this is where the game kind of becomes a chore. Because climbing that ranking can be really slow. So it does encourage you to go out into the world and search through it. And it is a very well put together world. This is jaw dropping to see what they can do on phones now versus what they were doing, 13 years ago when the iPhone first launched. That this is the kind of caliber of game that we're getting. And so this world is huge, and just like Breath of the Wild, you can really just go and climb anything you want to climb. You can run and jump and glide off of anything you want to run and jump and glide off of. There are little enemy camps all over the place for you to take down. There's cooking elements. But then unlike Breath of the Wild, there are multiple playable characters, and this is where the whole gacha mechanic comes in. You can do gacha pulls, and you can get either new characters or weapons for your characters. So, it's pretty standard with what you see in most mobile free-to-play games. It's just the adventure ranking. I just got over, I think, the second kind of lull in it where I had to get to a certain point in order to progress. And it's just a real pace breaker for me. And because everything that you play when you're not trying to build up your adventure ranking, when you're actually doing the story content, it flows very well. But I imagine that having that adventure ranking has to do with the fact that this is a free-to-play live service game that's going to be seeing new content for months and years to come. I've been playing on mobile, and generally this is not how I would go about playing a game like this, because when you have the world as big as it is, the vistas as beautiful as they are, I kind of don't want that to be constrained to my little 5-inch phone. Right. But I will say that it plays pretty well. It doesn't run perfectly on my Google Pixel 3a because my Google Pixel 3a is a budget phone and this is not a budget game. When I put it on the highest settings, it lets me know that this is going to overheat my phone and the frame rate becomes a slideshow. The controls work pretty well. They just need a little bit of adjustments. I wrote about that on Sunday. But other than that, this is it's one of the, I think it's not one of the, it is the most ambitious mobile game to date. It's clearly that MiHoYo or MiYoHo, whatever their name is, the developers are putting everything into this, because it's just astounding that this is now playable on a phone. That this type of game is something that I have in my pocket at all times. So
right, because essentially because phones now are just basically portable PCs. Like I'm looking at some of the screens for the game now, and it's just kind of wild that it was like. You know, it was only like 18 years ago that Snake was like the phone game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And already games now just look like PlayStation 2 games or even PlayStation 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to like the early 2000s and look at what Japan had on their flip phones, and it is nothing more complicated looking in terms of graphics than like a Super Nintendo game. Like that was the extent of what they could do with that. But then the Japanese game developers just kept pushing the technology as much as they could. But like you said, now phones are just basically mini computers, and so you get these just outstanding experiences on it.
To have a game launch on like PS4 and mobile is like a very strange just body of platforms anyway.
Yeah. Like, I would expect that if it were a puzzle game, like we get those with Switch when you have the Pokemon Cafe Mix. Like that's right. Something that launches on Switch and mobile. That one kind of makes sense because it's just a mobile game you can play on your console. This really feels like a console game you're playing on mobile. And I know we're getting more and more towards that with mobile gaming as the technology improves further and further and they get bigger and bigger budgets. It's just, this is like a watershed moment towards that. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Dan. Dan, why don't you tell us about the Mafia Definitive Edition?
Oh boy, is Mafia a good time. I've been playing Mafia. I've been playing Mario 35. The Italian olive oil blood is flowing. Need some gabagool. And Mafia is a pretty damn good game. The original game, I always felt, as Brett pointed out in his review, that it was always kind of in the shadow of GTA 3. Came out before GTA 3, got immediately outshined by it. And in terms of like overall progression and story stuff, like this is not beat for beat, but pretty damn close. There's 20 missions, just like in the original. Each mission is maybe like 15 minutes to an hour, depending. And there's not really anything in the open world to do outside of collectibles. There's even like a dedicated exploration mode that you can do after the story to just go after those collectibles if you want. But the main campaign itself is quite literally just like doing objectives. There is like literally no exploration. The open world is set dressing, and in a way it's kind of refreshing. After playing a lot of Ubisoft games this generation, it's nice to just be like, yeah, just go here. Like, all right, cool.
How is the open world?
It's gorgeous. Like the game looks incredible, and it does have me questioning why maybe they didn't decide to add in a little extra content. Probably because of current events around the world and stuff. So they kept it very, very not toned back, but just true to the original, I should say. But the open world itself is gorgeous. This game looks incredible on the PlayStation 4 Pro and 4K HDR. So. Yeah,
it's. I mean, they did the the re-release of Mafia 3. They did the re-release of Mafia 2, and both of those. I mean, Mafia 3 is already a current gen game as it is.
Yeah.
And then Mafia 2 was last gen, so it's not going to be as massive of a step up as Mafia 1, which came out on the PlayStation 2. I remember seeing those screenshots and just being floored by what they offered.
It's a damn good looking game, but I think the voice acting is honestly maybe the weakest aspect, but that's just my personal opinion.
Okay. Now you said you also been playing Super Mario Brothers 35.
Yeah, I've been winning. I've been coming in first place. I have 6 first place rankings now under my belt. I'd like to say I am an expert now of 1-4. I always just immediately go for that just to send Bowsers to people.
I have not won yet, and
Damn.
my very first time playing, I Dean Takahashi the shit out of it by dying at the first Goomba.
So did I,
Yeah.
admittedly, because I was trying to press A to jump. So I ran right into that Goomba.
So it wasn't that for me. I completely forgot how
Oh.
the physics work
Well, that's just sad.
in the old Mario game. So I jumped up and I hit that first coin block and then just bounced right down directly into it. It's like, oh shit, right? This
Damn.
this does not play like other Mario games. So
There is certainly some input latency as well. I think because it's a multiplayer thing.
I'm not seeing that. I know that you brought that up, I think in Slack, and I'm just not seeing it. What I am finding is that when you get down to like the last 4 or 5 people, it's not that fun.
It absolutely boils down to just like either playing as careful as possible or looking for Hammer Bros. At least
Yeah.
for
Just whatever you can get to screw over your opponents. I mean, because I had one round where I came in second place. I was so pissed I came in second place. But I just had a fire flower, and I was just, everything that came my way, I was just easily taking out. And so, like, when I compare it to Tetris 99, it does, when you get down to those final few people, it does not have nearly the same intensity as that game brings. And in the Q post, I brought up that Nintendo might or should do a Zelda 35 next year to mark the 35th anniversary of Zelda. But after playing through this, I kind of don't think I'd want to see that. Like, that doesn't seem like it'd be fun to me, because the fun factor in this one does not last long enough through a single match that I want to see what they do with other franchises. And maybe it's just because I'm not winning. Maybe if I start winning, I'll start having more fun with it. But
yeah, I mean, I'm having a blast with it. I'm hoping that this just becomes maybe a mode in future Mario games, because I'd like to see what they do with just other games in general utilizing this mode.
I think it would be great if after the 6 months we're no longer going to sell it anymore, they release it as its own individual game with Super Mario Brothers 2 and Super Mario Brothers 3 as part of it, so you can choose from one of those, and maybe just have them jump from one game to the other. This is obviously just spitballing and wishful thinking. That's definitely not going to happen. Nintendo doesn't care that much, but wouldn't it be nice?
It would. I still don't understand the logic of making a limited release digital game, but sure, Nintendo is going to be Nintendo.
Yeah, I feel like we have to stop saying that. I feel like that's like giving them too much leeway.
It's getting old, but yeah.
Yeah. That's the video game equivalent of boys will be boys. We just got to stop saying that. We have to start demanding that they be better. They need to be best, as Melania would say.
You are listening to Podtoid.
That is it for games, and it is the first show of the month, which means it is time for the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
And we got some good questions for the show as we head into October and Halloween. I guess we're already in October, so we're not heading into it anymore. We're going to start with Boxman214 because he had a really good question last month that came in too late for us to answer on the show. But then he one-upped himself with a question from our question post on Saturday. So Boxman wants to know, when they make a movie about your life, what will the theme song be? And Occams, let's start with you.
Goodbye Horses.
Goodbye Horses.
The Buffalo Bill.
Oh, okay. Took me a second there. That's not one that's regularly on my mind.
Yeah, I think about it just about every day of my life. It's my favorite song ever.
So Occams, would your film be a horror movie?
I think it'd be kind of a horror comedy, sexual awakening, dramedy, kung fu, erotic thriller. Yeah,
With a little bit of flash dance in there?
a little bit. There would definitely be a puppet montage.
Chris, what would let's go to you next. What would your theme song be?
Oh, I don't know. Midlife Crisis by Faith No More, probably. Like, that's my favorite song ever, but also it's perfectly fitting.
I think I have a song that's perfectly fitting for mine as well. First of all, a movie about me would be boring as hell. I need to do something interesting fast, otherwise my life story is going to be told by Richard Linklater. As for the theme song, and I know how self-deprecating this is going to sound, but I'm going to go with Lonesome Loser by the Little River Band. For one, I am constantly getting beat by the Queen of Hearts. But I do keep trying. So yeah, that would be the theme song, though I imagine somewhere in my movie the song I'm Only Happy When It Rains by Garbage would play over a montage of me being alone. So yeah. Look forward to that in theaters starring Diane Keaton. Dan
CJ,
yeah.
You're never alone if you have friends, and we are your friends. What's that line from the end of It's a Wonderful Life? A man
Fuck me hard.
No, it's My Wonderful Wife, Occams. Get it right. Come on.
It's something like a man can never be fucking bankrupt if he has friends. I don't know.
Something about being poor, but I'm rich in friends. Something.
Yeah. Or,
Angel gets his wings.
Yeah, Angel gets his wings. Clarence, I want to live again. You know, if I decided to quote a line from like Inframan, it probably would have fit better, to be honest.
Yeah, that's where Jim Henson got Bert and Ernie from. Was It's a Wonderful Life.
Dan, do you have an answer? I know that you got these questions later than the rest of us, so.
I have answers.
Okay.
My movie couldn't afford like licensing a proper song, so it would be like a cover of like Linkin Park's In the End, a real shitty pop cover too. It'd just be that.
So do you think In the End, if they use it in movie trailer now, they would do like a slow ass version of it, or because it's already kind of a slow ass song, do they do a fast version of it?
No, melodramatic, slow,
piano only.
Artist. Yeah.
It'd be like a breathy white girl cover.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Speaking of, did y'all see the Craft trailer?
Yes.
That's fun. That made me feel.
What song do they use in that?
Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Okay. Did you see the Witches trailer?
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it looks good, and they use a slow version of Four Tops. What is that song called? I'll Be There. I'll be there. Yeah. All right. Our second question is from Granadico. They want to know what unpopular food candy Halloween opinion that you have that everyone else is objectively wrong about. I'll go ahead and start this one. I think last year we did what is our favorite Halloween candy or our most hated one, so it's nice to have a change up from the obvious question. In terms of unpopular Halloween opinions, I don't really have too much, but this might be one. In terms of candy, I think the vanilla Tootsie Rolls are better than the chocolate ones. They're technically called the vanilla fruit chews because you get them in the same bag as like banana and strawberry flavored. But I've never had a bad experience with one. They always just come up like super soft and delicious, as opposed to the chocolate ones, which are always iffy. You never really know if those are going to be soft or if you're going to need to go to the dentist to have new teeth put in because they just ripped them all out. Yeah, the only chocolate ones I enjoy are like the really long logs that are like basically a candy bar size, because those ones have never been hard on me. But like, I swear to God, when I go out trick-or-treating and people give me Tootsie Roll, as if I go trick-or-treating anymore. When I was a child and went trick-or-treating, I swear to God they were giving me last year's Tootsie Rolls. Like, these things were so fucking hard. Where'd you store these in the freezer? You want to throw it at my face now? Come on.
Oh, damn it. I was just about to make that joke.
I was thinking about it. And if you froze one of those oatmeal cream pies,
oof,
and kind of like hooked it in your index finger and chucked it at a baby, I bet you could paralyze it.
I bet if you freeze one of those pies that you could like skip it across a pond like it's a flat rock.
Yeah.
Dan, let's go with you next on this.
I don't know how like unpopular this take is, but like American milk chocolate, like I'm talking like Hershey and stuff like that, it's just the fucking worst.
Yeah, man. It's
Okay,
shit.
so that's not unpopular at all. Yeah, milk chocolate's bad. I guess like if I had to like maybe pick an unpopular one, candy like caramel covered apples are fine and great, probably a lot better than milk chocolate. But apparently that's just an obvious take, so I don't know.
I hate candied apples. I hate
Okay,
it
well
so
there you
much.
go. I love candied apples.
I'm not a fan of candy apples because of the like the subterfuge of pretending they're giving you something sweet when really
okay.
you're just getting an apple. Like you get that first little crunch at the beginning and you're like, oh, this toffee, and then it's like, wait a minute, vitamin C.
I would honestly rather eat a popcorn ball before I eat a candied apple. Caramel apples, however, yes, give me more.
Isn't that the same thing?
No,
Like a caramel dipped apple?
yeah,
Am I doing it same?
caramel apple and a candied apple are two different things. Candied apples are dipped in like a clear or red tinted candy, like candy hard shell. And so it comes back to the same thing with the Tootsie Rolls, that it's just really hard to bite into because it's a really hard candy. But caramel apples, no, fucking yes, give me those all the time. As a matter of fact, there was a grocery store.
Turns out both my tastes are just popular, whatever.
The grocery store I used to live near when I lived in West Hollywood, they did caramel apples year round. God, I'd get one of those a day. If anyone's wondering why I'm fat now, I got one of those a day. Chris, let's go ahead and go on to you.
My unpopular Halloween opinion is that Season of the Witch is by far the second best film in the series.
That
like,
works.
Those Rob Zombie ones, nah. The modern ones, The ones like Resurrection, awful. 5's terrible. The Curse of Michael Myers is abominable. And 4's all right. It has its moments. 2's terrible as well. 2's rubbish. So it goes Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and then you can just like skip the rest. Maybe watch 4, maybe.
It's a shame that Season of the Witch was so reviled when it came out, because I think that's the best idea for the Halloween franchise, that instead of making it about the one serial killers every year or two, you get a new Halloween story of just new horror. And it'd been like an anthology film series,
which was obviously the idea. And and then like Season of the Witch bombed, and then it's like Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Halloween 3 is also, just out of interest, if anyone feels like checking it out this October, you will never see a movie where so many characters use the fucking telephone. Like, from beginning to end, every character in that film is on the phone. And I don't mean mobiles, I mean landlines.
Of course.
There's a bit where Tom Atkins, the hero, is trying to escape, and there's security guards out to get him, like in a warehouse, and they're trying to kill him. And he still finds a fucking payphone and calls somebody, like inside the warehouse.
Oh, man.
Right, that's people ragged on Halloween 3 for a long time, but that's an all right movie. It's a lot of fun, and it's also just got that horrible premise of like the kids put the masks on and their fucking heads burst into spiders.
I will say my favorite thing about the original Halloween will always be the fact that it does not look like Halloween anywhere in that movie. There were like 3 pumpkins in the entirety of that film, and it's supposed to be Halloween night. Gotta love that.
There were leaves everywhere.
There were green trees everywhere, green leaves everywhere.
You've never been to Haddonfield, Illinois. How would you know?
That movie was filmed in March, damn it. Occams, let's wrap up with you. What's your unpopular Halloween opinion?
I don't know if you can make like the original Halloween today, because Michael Myers is just like standing outside the school. Like some fucking body would call the cops on him in a minute. I need to watch that now.
Sticking with Halloween, Celica Crazed asks, what would you do with a 12-foot tall Home Depot skeleton for the other 11 months of the year? Occams, let's start with you.
No, me.
Okay, Dan, let's start with you.
I'd keep it in the closet with the rest of them.
But
I'm getting that joke out of the way before anyone else steals it. Now you all have to come up with original answers.
All right, Occams.
Yes. Well, Dan stole my answer, so I don't know. No. What would I do? I think I'd like mount it to the front of my car. And like just have it like sitting there, and like I'd have like a little like pulley system set up so it could wave at people. And I'd dress it up for like themes. So for Thanksgiving, or Christmas, I have a lot of jaunty hats for it. I just make it kind of a staple of the neighborhood. I'd be that's a 12-foot tall skeleton guy.
If you get a 12-foot tall Santa costume, you could have a really cheap looking knockoff Jack Skellington.
Ugh.
Chris, you got an answer for this?
Well, if cartoons have taught me anything, I can take it down to the dog pound and feed a lot of very hungry dogs. So, or failing that, I'd like to somehow, bring it to life like animatronically, and then I could use it to take over the city, like Ghostbusters 2 style. I'd just cover it in mood slime, plug in a NES Advantage joystick, and I'm good to go.
That scene, I saw that movie in the theater, and that scene, I was standing in my seat clapping when that happened. I was so thrilled with that.
I had two answers for this. First, you attach some sticks to it to make it a puppet, and then you go to protest rallies with a sign around its neck that says Republican Healthcare Plan. Or you find a place and bury it. No one around, bury it underground. And then you wait a few years. Long enough that people have forgotten that Home Depot used to sell 12-foot skeletons. Maybe a decade, maybe 2 decades. Then, when no one is suspecting it, you partially dig it up, take a picture of it, and see how many people you can convince on social media that you just found evidence of a giant. Or, at the very least, you found the skeleton of Giant Gonzalez.
If fake news is anything to go by, it would trend well.
Oh, yes, it would.
And then when they're the bones are made of plastic, you can just say that was the way bones were back in those days.
This is what the American diet did to your bones back then.
This is what ding dongs and king size Hershey bars and caramel apples did to you.
Let's go ahead and move on to Bomber Ham. Bomber Ham wants to know, great name by the way, which Chuck Lorre show was worse, 2.5 Men or The Big Bang Theory? Occams, let's start with you.
I've never seen 2.5 Men, but looking at the premise, and I've actually only seen clips of The Big Bang Theory, but I'm going to go ahead and say The Big Bang Theory. I feel like The Big Bang Theory tried to kind of make a commodity out of being a nerd in a really condescending, annoying way, and I hate laugh tracks. And then just, I don't know, just Big Bang Theory. Yeah.
All right. Chris?
Yeah, Big Bang Theory.
Dan?
Haven't watched either, but at my old warehouse job, a group of 40-plus-year-old dudes that I used to work with who I just when they go home, their only thing was sports and television, I guess. So that's all they would ever talk about. They fucking love that show. And through osmosis and listening to their conversations, I learned to fucking despise that show.
So Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, Big Bang Theory. It sounds horrible. No thanks.
I kind of have to agree with you guys. I've seen both shows, and they're both awful in their own ways. 2.5 Men is incredibly sexist, and it quickly demonstrated how bawdy you can get on Bowdy. Why did I choose that word of everything that I can't pronounce correctly? Anyways, how lowbrow you can get on network television, because 10 years before that show aired, you had Seinfeld had the episode The Contest where they couldn't use the word masturbate. And then by the time 2.5 Men premiered, they could have named a character Cunnilingus Titty Cakes, and that would have been okay for CBS. But yeah, no, I agree with everything you guys said on The Big Bang Theory. It's commoditizes. That's not a word.
It's not a word. I used it as well, though, so just run with it and we'll pretend.
Makes a commodity out of nerd culture. The laugh track is way overused. I don't need a bunch of hooting and hollering every time Sheldon turns his head. These aren't real people. They're caricatures. And then worst of all, it gave us that Young Sheldon spinoff. So, I think that's the most damning thing against it. I at least enjoy watching John Cryer have bad things happen to him. So that's moderately enjoyable. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the final question from Fluffles. Fluffles wants to know, since the Monster Mash is about a song called the Monster Mash that we never actually hear, what style of song do you imagine it to be? Dan, let's start with you.
My only knowledge of that song comes from like really old movies that I don't remember and Fallout 76. So I imagine it's like me just standing on something too high for the feral ghouls to reach me and all the sounds that go along with that.
Okay.
Loud screeching and gunfire.
I imagine that would have been popular with the Wolf Man. So, that could be right. Chris?
I mean, sorry to be the killjoy as always, but like I saw this question doing the rounds on Twitter this week. Like
Okay.
it was kind of our question. The Monster Mash isn't a song; it's a dance.
It's both.
Thanks. I was going to bring that point
No,
up.
it's a dance.
It's a dance first, but then they played the Monster Mash later in the song.
But it's like, so they did the Monster Mash and then they played it. Because like Dracula gets salty as fuck during that song because no one's doing the Transylvania twist anymore.
Yeah.
So like it clearly is a dance and not a song. And then later it says they played the mash. Does
Yeah, because they brought in the Crypt Kicker 5 to sing.
See, your first mistake was going on Twitter.
Well, I guess, I can only assume that if it is a song, which it isn't because it's a dance, then it's probably some psychobilly shit. But as long as there's green skinned girls with beehives like doing the mashed potato, I don't care.
Yeah, since it's a dance, I'm gonna say it's that dance those like Russian cyber techno goth ravers do, with the long like fake multicolored dreads. It's that dance.
I was gonna say because it's a graveyard smash, it catches on like a flash. It has to be a bubblegum pop song by New Edition. Now I know nobody in New Edition was born when the Monster Mash was written, but it's the only answer to me that makes sense because there are 5 singers. I was gonna go with the 4 tops, but unfortunately, with the Crypt Kicker 5 being the singers, I needed 5 singers. So New Edition, Bobby Brown, Monster Mash.
The Crypt Kickers does sound like a great band. Like definitely a band that wears platform shoes and has like quiffs. So
Sounds like if like the members of Suicide had a side project,
Mate, I don't buy this. It was a song shit. It's clearly a dance.
No, it's a dance. It's 100% a dance.
So they were dancing to no music.
No, they were dancing to music, but they were doing the Monster Mash. And also in real life, they did invent a dance to go along with this song. It was basically the mashed potato, except in between the moves, you did like an arms outreach, like Frankenstein kind of walk.
I do wish more music nowadays would invent dances and have that be the entire point of the song.
We don't get that anymore. Do you know in Japan they had like a Space Invaders
Well,
dance?
hold on. Have you guys not heard of the great artist known as Soulja Boy?
Yeah, we're not gonna acknowledge that. But a Space Invaders song?
Yeah, in Japan they had like a Space Invaders dance where the dance floor would get into like parallel lines and all kind of shuffle to the left, then jump forward, then like all shuffle to the right, like the Space Invaders coming down the screen.
That sounds like nerdy line dancing.
Yeah.
Okay, well those were your questions, and this has been the goddamn mail.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Goddamn mail.
All right, we are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, do we have a community shout out this week?
Well, differently this week. I went to the Q posts and I asked the community who should be shouted out, and I got a lot of replies. So bear with me here. All right, so Khalid Eternal Nye should be shouted out. Me, because I'm breathtaking, should be shouted out. T Virus Gets, because he says he says what I think when it comes to Resident Evil, says a user. Shout out to Bong264 in his miniature painting, which is really awesome, by the way. I love seeing those minis. Limo Maker for making people laugh. Shout out to all you fucks, because this has been a tough fucking year, and we've made it through most of it so far, y'all. Shout out to that. Batthink deserves some love. Always super positive and pleasant. Let's see here. Ligma Balls should be shouted out. Thank you, Goofy or Brute. I appreciated that. Let's see here. Everyday Legend. Wow, that's going way back. I loved Everyday Legend. Jim Box, keeping it way, way back. Oh, Jim Box, you made me so happy. Everyone on the community management team, because they have a hard fucking job monitoring the quick posts and the chats under articles. Here. Let's see here. There's a list. Trigger, Ravenclaw, Meanderbot for their commissions. Major Tom for his consistent ability to gauge in well everything. Dino Sir, being very, very quietly a very talented being. DePhoenix, Rico, GM, Voltaic Owl, Seymour, Shoggoth, Frosty Mouth, Hypno, Prince, H. Large, Gadge, Bateman. Oh, so many. And Chris Moyce, who is too good for all of us, but we're glad he sticks around anyway. That's from Atonic Banana, and I absolutely agree with that. Let's see here. A couple shout-outs again for Trigger Pig, Ravenclaw, Meanderbots. Yeah, the list goes on. Just a lot of community love. So that was fun. That was a fun little experiment to do.
Awesome. That's a whole lot of names that I didn't hear mine a part of. That is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Dan, Chris, Occams, and myself, thank you for listening. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or the Destructoid YouTube channel.